So I'm sure at least half of you as teenagers had a favorite vampire series. Now, I wasn't cool enough to like the Anne Rice novels, and I wasn't like overly obsessed with Twilight, but my all-time favorite was the Vampire Kisses series by Ellen Schreiber. Well, I got to meet Ellen Schreiber a few years ago.
That was a really interesting experience, wasn't it?
And I wouldn't have actually gotten to meet her if it wasn't for Robin, who pretty much dragged me to her booth, because I'm standing over there in the corner with the last book in the series that I want her to sign, holding it against my chest. Just too terrified to even go over and speak words at her. Yeah, anxiety's a peach, ain't it?
It was definitely a bit of a build-up to actually get you to get up the courage to go and talk to her.
Oh my god. We did get to meet her, and I got to take a picture with her, and I'll try to put the picture right here of me with Ellen Schreiber. But one of the books in the series is actually called the Coffin Club, and it is a goth club and a vampire club. So it's for humans and for vampires, and the humans have no clue that there's real vampires there. So I decided, in honor of Ellen Schreiber and in honor of my favorite book series as a teenager, and probably still today, I never grew up, I made an actual Coffin Club sign, which is what I would assume would be sitting on all the little tables or even hanging outside the door. So yes, here's how we made it.
Our scrap piece of wood.
Yes, that I drew out a semi-symmetrical and straight coffin shape.
I will say you did a really good job with cutting this.
Well, I didn't take a whole year of wood shop not to be good at cutting.
I mean, you kept the great lines, and we didn't have to sand too much off at the end.
It wasn't bad, yeah. I did have to make it a little level though, because you will see here I made a base for it so it could stand up by itself. Because we don't have that much wall space. This poor spray paint. Obviously, I was almost out of black spray paint.
I think this is the last project for that can.
Yes. This was also very porous wood, so it actually took a couple of coats because it kept bleeding into itself. It was weird.
You mean you didn't sand it all?
Oh, shut up.
Dremeling. This is one of those tools that is great for all of these little DIY projects in the convy.
It's a crafting bust.
Yeah, you'll see us using this Dremel a lot.
Yes, I cut out a little divot. Not a hole, but a divot.
Yeah.
So that I could set the base in it and glue it down.
I think the hardest part was getting the angles down there at the bottom so that when you set it in there, it wasn't actually sitting on a little lump.
See my little testing strip over there? It is definitely a good idea to test everything.
Yeah, testing out the head, seeing which one's going to cut how.
Also, paint pens are your best friend, especially for someone like me who cannot paint free-handed straight lines to save her life, but for some reason I am able to use paint pens rather easily. It did a trace over with pencil so I could see where I was going to put everything, and then this white paint pen did wonders. I think I will always have paint pens in my house forever.
We've got a whole drawer full of every color.
It's true. I have to be honest with you, those pencil marks are still there, and I have yet to erase them.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't even think I've noticed that, so it blends in pretty well.
I feel like you can do anything with a design here. I chose a pentacle for mine because I thought it was very, apropos and very, protection over the club of vampires. I tried to freehand this because my paint pens were too thick. You can see how tiny this paintbrush is I'm using because these are very tiny letters, and I struggled with this. I was on edge so bad. I used some oil-based paint to write out Vampire's Welcome with a upside-down cross at the bottom. Not just because there was empty space at the bottom, but also because I wanted to make it clear what this was for, and it also made it look more like what I would assume would be the sign outside of the Coffin Club.
Really pulled it all together somehow. I think it just aesthetically, it really works.
I also kind of like the rugged, rustic look it kind of came out with, just especially using the scrap piece of wood. And then
wood glue.
I took a little bit of wood glue, and I know I said a little bit, and that looks like a lot, but, I wiped it off around the edges when I finished smushing this into place. See? Wipey. Make it look all neat and tidy. And then, of course, I had to brace it up to hold it down and make sure that it would set correctly.
Yeah, so that it was like square and level. Obviously, you're going to use a square to make sure that it's square.
I
was good thinking.
I wish I'd used that when I was actually making the lines, though. That would have been smarter. So yes, it stayed here for like, I would say, a day and a half to try to get it into this place. And here it is.
Yes, completed.
It turned out rather lovely, I think. And it stands up real nice on its little base, which I also cut into this little tiny rectangular shape. I think it still looks great, still held together. And yes, it's a little dusty, but that's part of the aesthetic. And also, if you'll notice, the lines in it from it being a scrap piece of wood, it looks so cool. It looks like an actual coffin lid, which I just love. I feel like this could be laying on a vampire's coffin and just pop open. And out comes Sebastian.
Yeah, see, I don't get that reference.
One day I will read you the series and you will fall in love with it as much as I have.
Sounds good to me.
It looks super cool in our bathroom too, which is slowly becoming the goth bathroom of my dreams.
Yeah, and our bathroom really is become the gothic room of the house.
It's glorious. But this is definitely a very unique decor piece for us. And I encourage everyone to try to make one themselves because it's super freaking simple. And if you are reading a book series and you hear about cool things in it, read about them, take them, and make them yourself. You can make this sign even if you haven't read the series because it looks awesome.
And of course we'll put links in the description to all of like the material that we used and such. Of course we can't link a scrap piece of wood, but that's on you. And we'll put the book series down there too. Why not? Go check that out.
So I guess what we're saying is, vampires welcome. Happy crafting! Doodles noodles.
Bye.
To Brianna, many fangs. Ellen-S. So awesome. Thank you, Ellen. I love you. I will treasure this always.